a racist officer on trial, a black attorney uncovering dark truths. But then, before we dive into this shocking story, let us know in the comments where in the world you're watching from, and don't forget to like this video and subscribe to the channel for more jaw-dropping stories like this one. It was supposed to be a routine trial, until the officer reached for something that turned the entire courtroom upside down. The courtroom was tense. You could feel it in the way everyone avoided eye contact, in the subtle shuffle of papers, in the nervous throat clears echoing off the high wooden walls. At the center of it all stood Attorney Marcus Dean, a tall, sharply dressed black lawyer with a calm voice and eyes that held back oceans of experience. He wasn't just another attorney in the room, he was the storm they hadn't expected. Facing him on the stand was Officer Brent Wallace, a white former police sergeant with a long history of unconfirmed brutality cases. He was on trial for the wrongful shooting of a teenage black boy during a traffic stop gone wrong, except this time the boy lived to tell the tale. Marcus had been called in by the state after the first prosecutor mysteriously recused herself. He was clean-cut, brilliant, calculated, but today something in his voice carried a sharper edge than usual. He turned, stared right at Wallace and said, "Would you like to repeat what you just said under oath, Officer Wallace?" Wallace squinted, his lips curling into a smirk. "I already said it, Counselor. I felt threatened. The suspect didn't comply." Marcus stepped closer to the jury box. "And yet," he said, holding up a photo, "this image, taken from your own body cam, shows the boy's hands above his head before you fired." There was a ripple in the courtroom. Wallace sat up straighter. Marcus turned the screen toward the judge. "Your Honor, this wasn't self-defense. This was execution." Wallace's lawyer shot up. "Objection. Overruled," said the judge. Marcus walked slowly back to his table. His confidence was calm, but everyone in the room could feel it pressing down on them like a weight. The next slide showed something no one expected, a redacted email thread, with Wallace's name signed at the bottom. Gasps spread through the room. Wallace's jaw twitched. The judge adjusted her glasses. "Mr. Dean, what is this?" Marcus looked her dead in the eye. "This is proof that Officer Wallace was warned 2 weeks before the incident that the department had received 3 separate complaints regarding racial profiling. They did nothing, and he acted again." Murmurs exploded. Wallace slammed a hand on the table. "This is a damn circus." But it wasn't just anger in his eyes, it was panic. Marcus could sense it. He was getting closer. "You swore to protect the people," Marcus continued, now pointing at Wallace, "but you became the threat. You hunted a child like prey, and now you sit here and lie about it." Wallace stood up abruptly. His lawyer tried to pull him down, but Wallace shook him off. "You don't know what I've been through," he shouted. "Sit down, officer," the judge warned. But Wallace didn't. He reached for something inside his coat. That's when it happened. In one terrifying second, he pulled out a concealed weapon, right in the middle of the courtroom. Screams erupted. "Gun," someone yelled. Security scrambled. Lawyers ducked. The bailiff reached for his sidearm. Marcus didn't move. Wallace pointed the gun directly at him, shaking. "You think you're smart? You think you know everything?" Marcus raised his hand slowly, his face stone cold. "Put the weapon down, Wallace," the bailiff shouted. Wallace's eyes darted wildly around the room. "Put it down." But he didn't. Instead, he snarled, "He's a liar. He twisted everything." The judge pounded her gavel. "Security, restrain him immediately." But Marcus, he stepped forward, still calm, still composed. "You're not angry because I lied," Marcus said, voice steady. "You're angry because I found the truth you buried." Wallace's grip on the weapon faltered. The room had fallen into eerie silence now. And then, click, he pulled the trigger. But nothing happened. The chamber was empty. He froze. 2 guards tackled him to the floor, wrestling the gun from his hand. The courtroom exploded in noise, panic, anger, fear, and disbelief. As they dragged Wallace away, cursing and spitting, Marcus sat back down and quietly slid one last document into the evidence tray. It was a copy of Wallace's last text message to a fellow officer. "This DA is too smart. I'll take care of it if I have to." The courtroom was a war zone of whispers and chaos. Cameras clicked. Reporters raced to file breaking headlines. And Marcus Dean? He just sat there silent, composed, processing everything with the precision of a man who had faced worse storms in silence. Officer Brent Wallace had just attempted to pull a gun on him, in court, in front of a judge, on trial. And yet Marcus knew this wasn't over. The courtroom was cleared within minutes. Wallace had been taken into federal custody, but Marcus had already sensed it. That gun wasn't just a moment of rage, it was desperation. Someone was scared, and it wasn't just Wallace. As Marcus packed up his files, his junior associate Riley Thomas leaned in. She was in her late 20s, quick-witted and deeply loyal. "Sir," she whispered, "that wasn't just an outburst. Someone helped him get that weapon into court. That's a security failure." "No," Marcus said under his breath, "that's a leak, and it's inside the justice system." Marcus didn't wait for the press conference. He left through the side entrance escorted by 2 marshals, but he knew eyes were watching. He could feel it. Back in his office later that evening, Marcus opened a confidential file his team had pulled from a secure email server. It was encrypted and marked internal use only, SCPD. Inside were several complaints from citizens, all dismissed, all tied to Wallace. He narrowed in on one. A 14-year-old boy named Travis Bell, shot twice in the leg after allegedly reaching for a weapon. But in the body cam footage, Travis was seen holding a lunch bag. Marcus paused. There were discrepancies in the report, timestamps that didn't align. Someone tampered with the footage. He made a call. "Detective Maya Coleman," a voice answered on the other end. "It's Dean. I need to talk, tonight." "You're not safe, are you?" she asked without hesitation. "No," Marcus replied, "and neither is the truth." They agreed to meet at a quiet parking lot behind a closed diner on 9th Street. Marcus arrived alone. Maya, a black detective who had been quietly helping him investigate the case off the record, showed up with a file folder and a gun tucked into her belt. "You look like you've seen a ghost," she said. "I might have," Marcus replied. "Wallace tried to kill me today." Maya froze. "In court." "In court." She handed him the file. "Then you need to see this. Wallace wasn't working alone. I ran a private scan on the body cam metadata. They didn't just delete evidence, they replaced it." Marcus flipped through the pages. His breath caught in his throat. "This is a pattern," Maya continued, "and Wallace is only the front man. There's someone higher, someone feeding him intel. And look, this symbol," she pointed to a tiny logo at the bottom of a page. "This is tied to a private security firm." Marcus studied it. "Vanguard Shield." "Exactly. Ex-cops, ex-military. Some of them still have connections inside law enforcement. Quiet contracts, no paper trails. And what would a firm like that want with Wallace? He was their tool, someone they used to ignite fear, silence witnesses, manipulate cases. And you just pulled their mask off." "This isn't justice anymore," he said. "It's war." Suddenly, Maya's phone vibrated. One word popped up on the screen. "Run." She didn't hesitate. "Get in your car, now." Marcus turned, and from the shadows 2 SUVs appeared, headlights off, moving fast. Men in black tactical gear jumped out. No badges, no names. "Move," Maya shouted, drawing her weapon and firing a warning shot. Marcus dove behind his car as bullets whizzed past. Maya returned fire, ducking for cover. "Who are they?" Marcus shouted. "They're not cops," she yelled. "They're hired." The air exploded with glass and metal as one SUV rammed into Marcus's vehicle, sending it crashing against a dumpster. Marcus crawled toward the rear alley. Maya covered him, hitting one of the attackers in the leg. He dropped with a grunt. Just then, red and blue lights flashed down the street. Real police sirens. The attackers hesitated, then scattered. Within seconds, they were gone. Marcus and Maya stood there, panting, bruised, shaken, but not broken. Back at a safe house later that night, Marcus stared at the wall, thinking, "Why now?" he asked. "Why expose themselves so openly?" Maya poured herself water. "Because you're getting too close, and whoever's pulling the strings knows it." Marcus leaned forward. "Then we go deeper. We follow the money. We find the connection between Wallace, Vanguard Shield, and the people giving the orders." Maya nodded. "And what about the trial?" "I'll be back in court Monday morning. They want to silence me? Let them try." Marcus Dean wasn't just fighting a courtroom battle anymore. He was unraveling a hidden system, one built on silence, protected by power. But he wasn't afraid. He was just getting started. Monday morning arrived like a thunderclap. The courtroom was tighter than ever. Metal detectors had been upgraded. Federal marshals flanked every corner. But even with all the added security, there was a tension in the air so thick you could slice it. Marcus Dean stepped in calmly, his tailored suit pressed, briefcase in hand, face unreadable. But inside he was wired. Not with fear, no, that emotion had left him long ago. What ran through Marcus now was resolve. He walked past the rows of journalists, court employees, and curious spectators. Whispers followed him. "That's the lawyer who got the gun pulled on him, right? I heard he uncovered something massive. Wasn't the officer supposed to be transferred?" The judge entered. "All rise." Judge Abigail Cortez, a Latina with no patience for theatrics, took her seat, adjusted her glasses, and immediately turned to the courtroom deputy. "Where is the defendant, Officer Brent Wallace?" The deputy replied, "He's en route from federal custody, Your Honor." But Marcus already knew something was wrong. He leaned into his associate Riley and whispered, "Check the transport logs, something's off." Just then the double doors swung open. 2 officers escorted Wallace in, hands cuffed. He looked disheveled, bruised, almost as if someone had tried to silence him during the transfer. Marcus watched him closely. Wallace avoided his gaze. "You're scared now," Marcus thought, "but not of me, of whoever you were working for." The hearing began. Marcus stood. "Your Honor, with your permission, I would like to present new evidence. It directly implicates third-party tampering in previous body cam footage related to Officer Wallace's misconduct." Judge Cortez raised a brow. "You may proceed." Marcus projected the footage onto the courtroom screen. Side-by-side comparisons showed the original video and the edited one. "This," he said, pointing to the screen, "is the unaltered version Detective Maya Coleman and I recovered. Notice the timestamp, clearly manipulated. And here," he clicked, revealing transaction logs, our financial trails linking a security firm, Vanguard Shield, to city officials involved in the case reviews. A gasp rippled through the room. The prosecutor shifted uncomfortably. Judge Cortez leaned forward. "Are you suggesting this officer was acting under the direction of a private firm, and someone in this courtroom knew?" Marcus turned slowly toward the gallery. "I'm not suggesting it, Your Honor. I'm proving it." He placed a printed check on the evidence desk. "Paid by Vanguard Shield. Signed by Assistant DA Gerald Banks, a $50,000 transfer made just days before the dismissal of 5 use-of-force complaints against Wallace." Now the courtroom exploded. Spectators murmured. Some stood in shock, others shouted. Judge Cortez banged her gavel. "Order, order in this court." The bailiff shouted for silence, and finally the room calmed. But just as Marcus turned back to his table, Wallace stood up. Still cuffed, he glared at Marcus. "You think you're safe," he snarled. 2 bailiffs moved to restrain him, but he suddenly shouted again, this time louder. "You don't know what you've started." Marcus locked eyes with him. "Yes, I do." Wallace was dragged out of the room. Court recessed. Back in the hallway, reporters swarmed Marcus, firing questions. "Mr. Dean, are you saying this goes beyond Wallace? Who's funding this cover-up? Is the district attorney involved?" Marcus stopped, looked at every camera lens, and spoke into the mic. "I didn't come here to play games. I came here for justice. And whoever is trying to bury the truth should be very, very nervous." Then he walked away. At his office that evening, the team was buzzing. Maya had joined them again. "We have a list," she said, slapping a file down on the desk. 15 names connected to Vanguard Shield, judges, prosecutors, cops, even politicians. Marcus skimmed through them, then stopped at one. His eyes narrowed. "No way." Maya leaned over. "You know him. He was my mentor, Judge Randall Gray. He swore me in." "Look at the dates," Maya said. "He signed off on Wallace's bail request, even after a prior misconduct hearing." Marcus dropped the folder. It wasn't just about rogue officers anymore. This was systemic. Maya lowered her voice. "You can't go after them all at once. They'll come for you harder than before." "I'm not backing down now," Marcus replied. But just then the power flickered. Darkness, silence. Then, boom! A loud explosion shook the building. Everyone ducked. Windows shattered. Smoke filled the office. Marcus shouted, "Get down!" Screams echoed as the fire alarm blared. Someone had planted an IED at the building's rear entrance. Emergency services were called. The building was evacuated. Outside, covered in dust, Marcus looked at Maya. "This isn't just intimidation. It's war." Maya's face hardened. "And we need to hit back." Just then, a voice rang out from a crowd nearby. "Mr. Dean." A young woman with a hoodie rushed up to him. "My name is Jada. My brother was shot by Wallace last year. They said he attacked an officer, but he was unarmed." Marcus looked her in the eyes. "Bring me everything you have. No more stories get buried." That night, Marcus met with his team in a secret location, an old underground library that hadn't been used in years. It became their new headquarters, and on a dusty chalkboard, he wrote a name in bold: Project Retribution. Operation Truth was no longer a courtroom drama. It had become a mission, and Marcus Dean was going all the way. The courtroom was no longer silent. Smoke hissed from a ventilation shaft where the explosion had just been triggered. Papers fluttered through the air like wounded birds. Everyone ducked, screamed, and scattered for cover. But Isaiah stood his ground. The courtroom guard at the door reached for his weapon, but the judge slammed the gavel repeatedly. "Order, everyone stay calm." The explosion hadn't come from within the courtroom walls. It was underneath. From behind the curtain near the judge's bench, a pale, balding marshal ran in. His face was drenched in sweat, his earpiece dangling. Sir, there's a breach in the sublevel, Section D. It's been blown open." "Section D," Isaiah said, stepping forward. "That's the records archive, where court evidence goes to die." All eyes turned toward Isaiah. "You," the judge barked. "This you're doing?" Isaiah shook his head. But someone's trying hard to erase the truth. Before the judge could respond, Isaiah raised a small device, a sleek modern recorder, and pressed play. A voice crackled over the speakers. I warned you, if that arrest ever went public, if he starts poking around, bury him, use whatever means necessary. We can't let anyone know what happened in Montgomery. The courtroom froze. Isaiah turned to the judge. Recognize that voice? The judge didn't answer, but his hands trembled. Earlier that morning, Isaiah stood outside the courthouse gate, pacing, phone in hand. He wore a navy blue suit, sharp as his stare. The trial was about a crooked officer, James Coulter, accused of planting evidence, torturing suspects, and covering up racial hate crimes. And Isaiah? He was the defense attorney the public hadn't expected, a black attorney from the South Side, with a reputation for digging up buried truth like a bloodhound on instinct. But this wasn't just another case. This one was personal, because one of Coulter's victims was Isaiah's cousin, and the police had called it an accidental overdose. They made my cousin look like a criminal, Isaiah muttered to himself, but I'm about to flip the whole script. Back in courtroom 3C, post-explosion, Coulter stood, unshackled, sneering. Nice fireworks, counselor. Trying to blow up the courthouse won't make your lies true. Isaiah turned slowly toward him. I don't need lies. I've got receipts. He clicked another button. The courtroom screen behind the judge flickered to life. Security footage appeared. Grainy but real. A timestamp, August 9, 2022. A man was handcuffed, bloodied, thrown into a van by Coulter himself. That man was the same one found dead from overdose hours later. Whispers exploded around the room. The jury leaned forward. Coulter's lawyer. This is inadmissible. Fabricated. Objection. Isaiah, that footage came from a thumb drive mailed anonymously 2 nights ago, along with a map to the court's sublevel where records are kept, and a warning that they were being destroyed. Suddenly, the doors burst open. Armed federal agents in black uniforms swarmed in. Everyone down. Federal Marshal Service. The lead agent scanned the courtroom and locked eyes with Isaiah. Then he walked toward Coulter. James Coulter, you're under arrest by federal authority. You are being detained for obstruction of justice, destruction of evidence, and conspiracy. What? Coulter shouted. I'm on trial already. This is double jeopardy. No, this isn't for what you're on trial for, the agent said. This is for what we just found in the archive you blew up. The cuffs snapped shut, but Coulter's fury only grew. Red in the face, he spun violently, and from under his jacket he drew a small concealed weapon. You think this is justice? He roared. He aimed it, directly at Isaiah. Gasps ripped through the courtroom. Isaiah didn't flinch. He took a step forward. I dare you. Coulter's finger hovered, but then he hesitated, because behind Isaiah, the judge had stood up, his hand on a hidden panic switch. And then came the voice. Coulter. The courtroom doors parted again. Put the weapon down. It was a woman's voice, cold, commanding, absolute. A woman in army fatigue stepped in. A colonel, her face unreadable, her eyes locked on the barrel in Coulter's hands. What the hell is this? Coulter barked. Another show, another parade of black heroes. The colonel ignored him. She walked calmly to the center of the room. I'm Colonel Nadine Holt. The Pentagon is aware of your actions, Coulter. We've been following your underground network since 2019, and thanks to this attorney, she pointed at Isaiah, we now have everything we need. This is insane. Coulter muttered, still holding the gun. I'll blow him away. I swear I will. But Isaiah simply stared. You're already finished, he said. You just don't know it yet. And then, quietly, like a magician revealing the final card in a trick, Isaiah reached into his jacket and pulled out a badge. Not just a lawyer's badge, but one marked, Federal Division of Justice, Special Prosecutor. Whispers turned to full-blown shouts. Coulter's hand began to shake. The agents began to advance slowly. I was never just your opposing counsel, Isaiah said. I was placed on this case because someone needed to get close enough to see your eyes when the truth came crashing down. It was a war zone of secrets, confrontations, power plays, and truth grenades, and Isaiah stood at the center, calm, relentless, and unshaken. The moment the FBI badge glinted in Isaiah's hand, the room dropped into absolute silence. Even the murmurs, the scribbling of court reporters, the slow rustle of jackets stopped. All eyes locked on the black attorney who had walked in as a defender, but now stood revealed as a federal prosecutor on a mission. Coulter's gun still trembled in his hand. You tricked me, he whispered. This whole thing was a setup. No, Isaiah replied calmly. It was an investigation, one that led right to you. Coulter's lawyer leaped up. Your Honor, this is outrageous. I demand an immediate dismissal of these theatrics. Sit down, the judge thundered, slamming his gavel. Mr. Langston, is what we're witnessing true? Isaiah nodded slowly. Yes, Your Honor. I've been working undercover with the Department of Justice, assigned to uncover a wider web of corruption involving multiple officers, including Coulter. The evidence you're seeing today was gathered over the last 2 years. The video, the voice recordings, and more. It's all part of a sting operation. Gasps exploded again around the courtroom. Your cousin's death, the judge said quietly. It wasn't just personal, Isaiah replied. It was a doorway into something bigger. Coulter, still holding the weapon, now had sweat pouring from his face. His grip was losing strength. His mouth trembled as he realized there was nowhere left to run. Behind him, the lead federal agent and 2 others slowly advanced with drawn tasers. Drop the weapon, Coulter, the colonel ordered. This is your last warning. You used me, Coulter shouted. You paraded me like a villain just for headlines. You don't understand what it's like. These streets, these criminals. Isaiah didn't move. I don't understand what it's like to murder innocent people and cover it up with your badge. A split second later, clang, the gun hit the floor. Coulter sank to his knees, breathing hard. The agents moved in instantly, cuffing him tighter than ever before. He didn't resist. He didn't even speak, just stared blankly ahead like a man who'd finally seen the world he built crumble beneath his boots. Reporters shoved mics into the faces of anyone in uniform. The front steps of the courthouse looked like a movie premiere with everyone asking one question. Who is Isaiah Langston? Inside the courtroom, a few jurors still sat frozen. Some cried, some smiled, and one elderly black woman, Juror 9, whispered to herself. That's what justice looks like. Meanwhile, inside a press room upstairs, Isaiah stood before a wall of microphones. My name is Isaiah Langston. I was born and raised in East Atlanta. I've worked for the Department of Justice for over 5 years. Today's trial was not about vengeance. It was about accountability. He paused, then added, we all wear uniforms in this country. Lawyers, judges, officers. But no uniform should ever protect someone from justice. Flashback. 1 year earlier, Isaiah sat across from his DOJ supervisor, a steel-haired man with piercing gray eyes. Isaiah nodded. If you won't let me go after Coulter directly, let me embed myself. You'll have to give up everything. Your face will be on TV. Your past will be open season. You'll be hated. I already am, Isaiah said. But I'd rather be hated and useful than quiet and complicit. Present. Later that day, as Coulter was loaded into a black federal van, he turned one last time to Isaiah. You think you've won? Isaiah looked at him squarely. This isn't about winning. This is about healing what you broke. The van drove off. Colonel Nadine Holt approached Isaiah, extending a firm handshake. You handled that like a soldier. My cousin was a soldier, Isaiah said. I just wanted his name cleared. It will be, she replied. You gave a lot of people hope today, and you exposed something no one else had the courage to look at. Isaiah watched the sunset start to dip behind the courthouse dome. There's more where this came from, he said softly. You going after them next? She asked. Every single one. 1 week later, the final twist. Back at his modest apartment, Isaiah sat reviewing files. New names, new leads. His phone buzzed. Unknown number. He answered. Langston, you don't know me, but I watched what you did. I need to talk to you. It's about a case, one that never made it to court. Isaiah leaned forward, eyes narrowing. The voice paused, then added, the cop involved. His last name was Coulter too, but this happened 15 years ago, in Chicago. Isaiah froze. I'm listening.